Okay, so welcome to Google Classroom and GSuite. Today's session is just to give you an introduction and a little bit of information about how Google Classroom and GSuite work. And I'll talk to you about how I use them as a primary school teacher and how I'm using them during school closure at the moment as well. So let's move on and have a look at what we're doing today. So GSuite within Glow, these are the packages that we are talking about. So you can see all these icons and you may have seen them before, you may have tried some of these packages out, or this might be completely new to you. That's okay. Today's aimed at everybody. So we'll have a quick run through what everything is and how it works, and then I'll take you into things in more detail. So starting from the left over here, starting from the left over here, we've got Google Classroom, then we have Google Drive, we have Docs, Sheets, Slides, Sites, Forms, Jamboard, and Meet. And I'll give you a brief introduction to all of those today. Google Classroom is the main portal that we use. It's exactly what it says, really. It's a virtual classroom, and that's where everything happens. Google Drive is where you store everything. It's your online drive, and everything within Google Drive saves there automatically. And that's already set up for all users. Google Docs is a bit like Word documents. Google Sheets is like Excel, it's a spreadsheet package. Google Slides is for presentations like PowerPoints. Google Sites allows you to build your own websites. That's really easy to use. Google Forms is a form maker and form collector. So you can build your own forms. You can get the children to complete forms. You can use it for work. You can use it for parents. You can use it for surveys, quizzes. It's really useful. Jamboard is an online whiteboard, and it's a really good collaboration space. And Meet is what we're using today. It's an online meeting tool. So let's have a look a bit more at how that works. Now, just a moment. I have changed the background on this slide and it's lost all my words. That's not very helpful. Okay, so I'll just change the background on my slide quickly. Apologies. Tidied up these slides quickly last night. I must have missed this one. Okay, so GSuite collaboration. GSuite is really good for joining up online. So instead of when you used to create documents on a computer, you then had to find the document you wanted, email a copy of it to the person, they might have a look at it, then they'd make changes, then they'd email it back. Instead, you can do live collaboration. Every time you make a file within GSuite, it essentially makes it as a web page, and you can then collaborate on that in live time, or you can save it and you can work on it later. But it's really, really easy to share. And that's really the powerful part of it. So you can have live collaboration. So you can all go into a document at the same time, or go into a sheet or a set of slides or a Jamboard, and you can all work exactly at the same time. And it comes up with little tags to show who's doing what. Or you can work on something and then come back to it later, and it will save all the changes as it goes. It's also fully shareable. So everything is integrated into your Google Drive, which means you can then use it anywhere else within GSuite. So Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms are fully shareable. There are others too, but those are the main ones we tend to focus on. And as I said, it's all saved automatically to the drive. We have unlimited storage, so we don't need to worry about that. You're free to create your own workspaces. You can set up shared drives. You can move things between accounts if you have more than one account. It's very, very easy to use, very intuitive, and really helpful. So Google Classroom, what is Google Classroom? Think of Google Classroom as a child's digital link to learning. So it's like their place where they go in. And if you're a social media user, it's like your Facebook page where you go in, you log in, and that's the first thing you see. So when you go into Google Classroom, it has announcements and then it has assignments. And we'll have a look at that in more detail. Teachers can use Google Classroom to share assignments, homework, newsletters, and much, much more with parents and students. And parents are there because now that we're working from home a lot more, if they're going into Google Classroom daily, their parents are probably seeing it daily too, especially with younger children. And the great thing about it is it's accessible anywhere. So you can use it on Android, you can use it on iPhone, you can use it on tablets, you can use it in desktops. It's on all of them. And that goes for all of GSuite. You get apps for everything. You can have online versions if you're on a desktop or a laptop, and it's all really accessible and integrated. And Google Apps allow you to edit Google assignments from any device that's connected to the internet. So if you have a child who only has a tablet or only has a phone, they can still access things, they can still work on them. There might be some limited functionality with some things, and it might not be the best way to work, but if it's their only choice, then it is doable. So looking at how we actually use Google and Glow. Now in SLC, we access Google through Glow, and that's the same for all staff and pupils. So when you log into Glow using your username, which starts GW, you click on the Google Classroom tile to open Google Classroom. And if you can't see a Google Classroom tile, you can add it from the app library. Now I'm going to go through this live in a moment, but I'm just going to run through a couple of slides first. Okay, so when Google Classroom opens, you will have the option to join or create classes. You have the plus button in the top right hand corner, so you can see I put a nice big red arrow on my slide. You can use that to join a class or to add a class. So if you want to set up a new class for your pupils or for other staff members, then you add that there. Or if you've been given a code, then you can join it there. Alternatively, if you've been invited to a class or you're already a member of a class, you'll have tiles across here. If it's a class you've been invited to but you haven't been in yet, it will just say join in the bottom and you just click it and then you go in. Or if you've already been in, it will just show up here. And as you can see, you get a little summary of what you've already got lined up in your classroom. When you open Classroom, you start off in what is called the stream, which is your announcements page, your news, everything that's new comes up there. And that's a good way to keep on top of what's happening in your classroom. And I'll show you some of the features of that. Now, this slide's very busy, but don't worry, I'm going to put all of these slides are available on a Google Classroom you're going to be invited into. So you can refer back to this in your own time. But you can see there's a whole host of information up here. You get your menu of classes is under this 3-line symbol, which Google likes food references. So that's called the stack of pancakes, or you could call it the hamburger, stack of pizzas, whatever you're going to remember. But when you click on that, it will bring up a whole list of classes. The next piece of information shows you which class you're currently on. You've also got this big banner here, which gives you a bit more class information. Then over here, you've got the stream, which is for announcements that we're on at the moment. Then we've got Classwork. You've got a people page, which tells you about who's connected to this class. You've got your waffle, another food reference. That's how you get to all the Google apps really quickly. You just hit the button here. Over here, you'll have a little bubble, and that shows which identity you're signed in with. So if you have more than one Glow identity, you need to check you're in the right one. If you have more than one Google identity, if you have Android, particularly a lot of people have Gmail, you need to make sure you're signed in as the right profile in order to access your classes. So that little bubble there, you can click on it and it tells you which account you're in. And you can set up alerts and things like that. In upcoming assignments over here, it will tell you what you've got left to do. And if you're a teacher for the class, it tells you what you've got to work with in terms of your marking and reviewing. So it comes up with a to-do list. If you're a student in the class, it tells you what work you still need to do. And then we have updates from your teacher. We have everything that you have put in as an update as a teacher will pop up here. It might have assignments in it as well, but I'll talk to you about the stream in more detail in a moment. Okay. So on the stream, you can make announcements by clicking into the box. You can type a post. You can then add any file from your Google Drive, or you can add links or a file for your computer. And it also has YouTube integration because Google own YouTube. So there's really good YouTube integration. Obviously, when we're back in school, some YouTube things may be blocked, but at this point, when most learners are at home most of the time, you may find that YouTube links are something you're using more. And that's a good way to integrate them. When you click on a post, you also get options. You can post it right now, you can schedule it, or you can save a draft. Now that's really useful. Personally, I am a massive fan of scheduling things. Everything in my classroom goes live at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. That means that I don't need to think about what's happening to my classroom over the weekend. That's my time off, and I don't really want the kids to be spending 24/7 on it either. And it just means that everyone knows that come Monday at 9 o'clock, everything goes live. They can go in and check things then. If they want to check them later, that's absolutely fine, but they know that I'm not going to be expecting them to look at it until then. But that saves me having to sit Monday morning at 9 o'clock and post everything personally. I can schedule it whenever I want, and then it will just do it for me. You can also change settings for your stream by clicking on the cog at the top right, and we'll go and have a look at that in a moment. Right, let's run through this live. So I'm going to close this page, and we're going to go and have a look at the classrooms that I have set up on this account. So here I have my classrooms. I've got a classroom where I've got all my training materials, and I've got this demo class here. So I'm going to use my demo class today. When you click on it, it opens up, and you can see all the features that I pointed out before. So if I click on the hamburger, that gives me all the classes that I'm a member of. It tells me, it gives me a calendar as well that all assignments would be put into. And it's also got a settings cog for how I want to use the classroom. And that sets up my alerts in here. I can personalize things. So this is the settings. Yeah, you can set up your profile and your notifications. That's very useful. You can have everything on, which is what I usually have. Or if there's a classroom that you're a co-teacher, for example, I've got students in another class that I have in a reading group. So I need to be able to post assignments for them, but I don't necessarily want to know everything that happens. So for that particular class, I've turned off notifications, and I'll just go and see what's happening if the other teacher alerts me to something I need to know about. But it saves my emails going off every 2 seconds. Okay, so let's just go back to our classes. Okay, and in the bottom here, you've got 2 icons. You've got student record cards, so that goes straight into your student lists for that class. And you've got a folder, which will be the Google Drive for that particular class. So anything that I have used in that classroom, I could find in that folder. You've also got the More button here, the 3 dots. Snowman buttons, they get called sometimes, or a stack of meatballs if you want to stick with food. This allows you to move a class. If you have a lot of classes in your view, you might want to prioritize, so the ones you use most are at the top. You can edit directly from here, and you can change the name of the class. You can change the location of it. You can put some details in about which room you're in, for instance. You might want to copy a whole class if you had a course set up or a year-long group. So if I had my P4 classroom, for instance, and I really wanted to copy it all because I felt I was going to be reusing a lot of material this year, I can just copy the whole class. Or if it gets to the end of the year and I think, actually, do you know, I'm not going to use that class again, and I don't want any materials from it, and I don't want the kids going into it all the time, so I'm going to archive it. So I can send it to archive. If I archive the class, it never gets deleted. You can always unarchive it. But it just means it wouldn't appear at the top. Okay, so let's go back into my demo class, and I'll show you a few things live. So making announcements are really easy. You can see here I've got a couple of announcements. This one has a grid attached to it, which is a Google Doc. And this one has a video attached to it, which was a little video I asked for them to do a little task. If I want to start a new announcement, I can just type into this box here. Now you'll see there's some drop-down menus at the top, so you can choose which classroom you're putting this in. I could put it into both my classes or all my classes if I wanted to. I can choose whether it's every student that's getting this, or I might just have one student I need to speak to who hasn't been online perhaps for a week and I want to just check in with them, or if I wanted a reading group to go and have a look at a video that I've not been able to attach before, I can pick who's going to see that. And then I can type in my class message. So happy Tuesday. Right, now if I want to add something, you just click on the paperclip. That will give you access to your Google Drive, or I can post a link to a web page. I can post a file from my computer if I've not put it into my Google Drive, or my device if I'm on my phone, or I can do a YouTube link there. Then over here at Post, when you click on the drop-down arrow, you get some options. So post just puts it up immediately. I can schedule my post, so I can ask for it to post later on, or I can save a draft if I want to come back and work on it later. But I'm just going to post it just now. So it just clicks posting, and then there it is. Now, if I wanted to come back and interact with that and change anything, I just click on the More button. I can edit it, I can delete it, I can copy the link if I want to post a link to it somewhere else. I might want to tell another teacher to go and check my announcement for me and make sure I've typed it up correctly. And if it wasn't at the top, I can also choose to move things around. So if my grid for the week I wanted to keep at the top, I can keep moving it back up. So that's how announcements work. You can also reuse posts. So if I go in here, I can, if I click on the reuse button at the edge, there we go. This one looks through the posts that I've already got, or I could go into another classroom. If I was like, actually, there's a really good post I've put in the other classroom, and I really want to use this one, I could just click reuse, and it would post a link to that at the top of the class. Okay, so that's reusing posts. That's the recycle button there. Everything within the classroom is changeable, so I could change my theme, I can upload my own banner, I can make a photograph, I could use a photo I've got on my computer. There's a class code here if people needed to join the class and I hadn't already put the link in. I can put it up on my screen, I can make it as big as I want. And that's quite useful if you're in a classroom physically and you want to show it off, or if you wanted to do it live over a Google Meet, you could do that too. And at the moment, we are not connecting with pupils live, so we're not activating these Meet links. But if that was something you were able to do, or it was a classroom just with adults, a professional learning classroom, you can have a Meet link that's embedded into the class so that you know that you can always use that Meet link with your classroom. So that's the announcements page. One more thing I want to show you, which I find really useful, is to streamline your stream. Now this shows me my class details. So this is the settings, and I got into this by pressing the cog. Here we've got the general settings, and in here you can set up your stream with 3 different options. You can have it set up so that just teachers can post and comment. You can set it up so that students can comment, but they cannot post. Or you can have it so that everybody can post and comment. Now, personally, I tend to put it on the middle setting. I like using the comments in the stream so that people can quickly put up a message. Sometimes I want everyone to comment on something, like if I know it's someone's birthday in the class, I tend to put up a happy birthday message and then ask everyone else to say the same underneath. So I want the students to be able to comment. I also think at this point, it's a good way for kids to have connection with each other. And they can have a discussion. We have had to set some guidelines for children and just say, look, obviously this is like being in the classroom, keep it appropriate, keep it on task, and make sure that there's a little bit of monitoring to do if you're allowing children to comment, but they do learn the rules pretty quickly. And you can mute children if they are breaking the rules, and especially if you have repeat offenders who can't seem to follow the guidelines, you can mute children so their comments just won't be seen by anybody, and then you can just give them a warning that you've had to do that. And ultimately children can lose access, so it's something they want to stay on with. Classwork in the stream is the next big option. Now, if you have it set up for showing notifications or showing attachments and details, every time I post some classwork, it pops up in the stream. Now, that can be useful in that it brings people's attention to the fact there's new classwork, but I tend to schedule all my posts for a Monday morning, and that means that on a Monday morning, there might be 15 posts suddenly appear, and that's a lot for children to work through, and that can be quite overwhelming. So what I've chosen to do is I've clicked Hide Notifications, and I just put up one announcement that says, all of your classwork is now in the Classwork tab. Please go and look there, and I might just post my grid for the week on the announcements page. Further down, we've got deleted items. If you want to have it set up so that only teachers can see deleted items, you can click that. And Guardian Summaries at the moment isn't live, but there is an update coming on that. So hopefully soon, will be a situation where parents can be connected to their child's account on Google Classroom, and once a week they'll get an email that says what's due for that child for that class. If you go down, there's also some options about marking. You can have overall marks, you can have total points, you can have weighted by categories, you can show marks to students. I don't use marks very much, but if that's appropriate for your class, you can set up your options in there. And you can see that as at the moment, I've got it set up so that my Meet link isn't generated and it's not visible to students because I'm not using Meet integrated with Classroom. So my top tips there are that students only comment and that I put it for hide notifications on Classwork on the stream. So let's come out of there and I can show you how that looks now on the Classwork page. Okay, so this is the Classwork page. This is where students need to go to pick up their work. It tells them everything that's due. And there's lots of different ways to organise this. I have got mine set up for a primary school classroom during school closure. So when we were still open and kids were using Google Classroom intermittently, I was using it every week for homework and then also for some in-class assignments, particularly for ICT lessons, obviously, but also for history lessons, geography, science, literacy and numeracy. We did quite a lot through Classroom this year. So I had things arranged by curricular area. But once we got into school closure, we realised that became very complicated and difficult for the children to navigate. So I've now set everything up so that it organises by week. And I'll show you how to do that. So within your classroom, you have the Create button. Now, this is like the post button on your stream, except this time this is about classwork. So you've got options here. You can create assignments. You can create quiz assignments. You can set questions, you can post material if it's something they might need to refer back to, and reuse post, which is one of my favourite buttons. Like reusing post on the stream, this allows you to reuse posts, which are classroom assignments. And then you've also got your topics. So if you knew you were setting up a whole new topic, you might want to go in and do it from here. But let's have a look at how we create assignments. So when you first click on Create Assignment, you've got lots of options. You can set up the title for what you're going to do. You can put in some instructions. That is optional, but I find that you need at least a couple of instructions in there. Then you've got your Add button with your paperclip, and you've got a Create button, which allows you to create Google files directly, which will automatically connect to this assignment. So for instance, let's set up a new task. Okay, so this is Tuesday writing task. And I'll just put in some instructions. Today, write a recipe. Okay, so I might already have in my Google Drive an example of a recipe. If I click on Google Drive, it will open up the drive that's connected to this Glow account. It will show me what I've recently worked on. It also gives me an option to upload from my device. It's got, I can go into my Google Drive and have a look around and see what there is in there. I can go into a shared drive if I have a drive set up with someone else or a whole group. And if I've starred things, then that's just a starred list. Okay, so if I went into my Google Drive and I want to go and find something that's going to be useful, maybe there was something they'd done in this Jamboard that was going to be helpful. Okay, so I'm going to come and take this. And when you attach something, you get a number of options. You get students can view the file, students can edit the file, or you can make a copy for each student. If it's view, then all they can do is look at it. If it's edit, then you are putting up one file and everyone who has access is editing the same file. Make a copy is like giving them a photocopy. So you get one for each student. And when you do that, it automatically will add their name to that copy which is very helpful when it comes back to you. But I also want them to create something. I want them to do it on a Google Doc, and I'm going to put the Google Doc on here automatically so that it will have Tuesday writing task, and it will have their name on it if I want that. Now the doc will open up automatically so that if I wanted to put in anything that's going to be in that doc for everybody, then I can do that straight away. Just give me a second while it opens. Here it comes. So you can see at the top, you get the title, and then you've got all your menus there, and then you've got the usual taskbar at the top. Okay, so I'm going to give this a title for them. Just type that in. So this is going to be called My Recipe, and I want them to have ingredients and then a method. So by typing that all in for them, it gives them a little template for them, and it will automatically generate one each when I make it, make a copy. So this is going to be their recipe card. Here we go. There we go. You can see a little typo. So each person will get the same document. If I wanted them to collaborate on it, I could just make one document and then they would all type into the same one. The obvious downside with that is you have to remind them not to delete something that's created by somebody else, but you do have a complete version history of everything that's created as a Google Doc. So you can go back and recover it. If somebody went in and edited it incorrectly, you can recover what was done. Now, you can see at the top I've written my recipe, but over here it says Untitled. If I just click in the box, it will take the first thing that's typed as the title. There we go. So it's created this, my recipe, ingredients, method. Right, okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to close that. And now it's got that here. Now I wanted to make it so that each person gets a copy of that as well. Okay, and actually they don't need their own copy of that if they're just referring to it. I'll just have it as students can view. Now, over here, you can see that you have some more options. So I can set it for more than one class at a time. I can set it for all my students. I can select students. I can set points, or I can have it unmarked. And then I've got due dates. So I might want to set this up. Due tomorrow. And topics. Now, topics is how you arrange your classwork page. So that decides where the file will be kept on that page. Now, as I said, I'm arranging things by date. So I need to create a new topic. And I'll put this in for this week. There's my date. Just press return. That creates a new topic for me. Okay, that's just saving. And I can choose whether I want to post this immediately, schedule it, or save a draft. Got partway through it. No, this is not what I want to do at all. I can discard it as well. So I'm going to schedule this. When I pop up schedule, it decides when I want it to go on. So I'm just going to say I want it to go on today, but I want it to go on at the end of the day because I don't want them to work on it just now. There we go. Scheduling. Okay, so that's how you schedule an assignment, and that's all the options. And you can see that now in my classwork page, it's created a brand new topic, week beginning 18th, and it's created my task. It's grayed out at the moment because it's not live. It's just scheduled. At the side, you'll see there's 3 buttons, and that allows you to edit or delete your assignments. And the 3 buttons on the topic bar, you can rename your topic, you could delete the topic, you could copy a link to it, you can move it up and down as well. Okay, so that's one way to organize everything in here. What I've done as well is I have activity grids. So each week I put up a new activity grid, and I'll just quickly show you what that's like. because this also allows me to check who's using what through the week. So here's my activity grid, and I've put the date at the top so the kids know which week I'm referring to. And because it's a primary classroom and I'm organising all the work for the children, this is one way to keep them organised so they know what they've got to do. We've got all their assignments in here. The ones with stars are a priority. And then the rest I've just put in as a selection, and they can choose what they want to have a look at. They might not complete everything, but that's okay with the way I've set things up. Now, in terms of checking who's actually using my grid, there's a really handy feature on Google Docs. This won't work if you put up a Word document, but if you convert a Word document into Google Docs, this would work, or you can create it straight in Google Docs. Just give me a moment and it's just loading. Here we go. So this button up here is what I want to draw your attention to. So you can see there's an arrow, which has got a kind of bend in the middle. This is the activity for this document. And when you click on it, it opens what's called the activity dashboard. Now this is very useful if you want to check who's actually using a document. So this keeps a record of who has accessed the document since it was created. So you can see that a couple of my identities have gone in and used it, but I also want to check who from the demo class has actually had a look at it. So everyone who's in the demo class would be in a list here. So that's all my pupils, and it would show me when they have last accessed it. And also I can check when the teachers that are connected to this class have looked at it. That's very handy if you want to check who's going online and checking your grid for the week. Okay, so that's how my Google Docs set up for my activity grid. Let's just go back and have a look at the classwork. Okay, now at the top here, I've got things that I have not assigned any topic to, and I've kept them at the top because they're information that pupils and parents have been needing to refer to. So there's a few how-tos, how to upload your work, how to upload photos, how to use sticky notes in Google Jamboard, but I've also got a question here. Someone who was looking for their Scratch login and could not find it. So you can post questions. And if you post a question, it works a little bit differently to an assignment. So I'll show you that on here. You type in the text for your question, and you can have it set up so that they can give a short answer. Or you could have options like yes or no, or you can have tick boxes for have you handed in. So if you had your P7s, for example, with all their transition work that you wanted them to do, you could have a little checklist for them and they could go through it and make sure they've done it. You can have due dates, you can have topics, and then the two options with questions, you can either have it so that students can reply to each other if you wanted to make it a bit of a self-help forum, or you can have it where students can edit answers. So if it was a checklist, for example, you might want them to be able to go and update it later in the week. So you could say, right, Monday, check in, let me know what you've done. By Friday, make sure you finish the list so they can go back in and edit their answers. But questions are very helpful, especially if you want to target a group or an individual. You can just assign it to that person and it will only pop up in their feed. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to tell you about classwork. Let's just go back to my presentation and check I have told you everything that's on here. So notifications in the stream, we talked about that and how to adapt that for your class. And as I said, that's just a way to make sure that your stream is really easy to use. Now, the Classwork tab we've talked about. The work is set up by teachers and picked up by students. And this is a guide to the Classwork tab. Now, as before, these slides are going to go up and the video for this meet's also going to go up. So you can refer back to this at your leisure. But you can see there's a whole host of information. You get your Classwork tab. You can see your grades, you can see due dates, you can view all your files that you've got, that you've used for that class. you've got your topics and your topic headings, and we talked about how they work. Each assignment has a title. You can have due dates or not as you require, but if there's due dates on it, it will be flagged up. Your assignment status, it will either be assigned or submitted, or it might be marked. So if it's assigned, they haven't sent it in yet. If it's submitted, it should be with the teacher. And if it's marked, then it's been returned with feedback, or at least viewed and checked. Then you've also got your attached files and links. So this shows you all the things that are attached to that assignment. And you can click on View Assignment to see more details. So setting assignments, you can also set quizzes, you can have direct questions, you can have material, and the reuse post button is very handy. And my organizational tip was thinking about how you want to use topics to present your work to students. For my class, it works much better at the moment to have it week by week, but you might find you want to have it organized by curricular area. You might want to have it organized by, if you're a secondary teacher, you might want to have your classroom organized by which parts of the curriculum it is, which part of SQA you're working on. When it comes to creating assignments, you can attach any Google files. You can just need to check whether you want to make individual copies, working together on a shared file, or just viewing your file. Let's have a quick look at the pupil view. Now, in the pupil view of an assignment, it's a little bit different. So here we've got my task over here, and it's been set by this teacher and it's due tomorrow. And here's my material. They've got 2 files attached to it. Now I can type into the class comments. Oops, excuse me. If I type into the class comments here, this will show up to everybody who's attached to that assignment. So I might want to say, has everyone else understood the task? Or I might want to say, I've already done this. And then in this corner up here, you've got your work. So if the teacher has assigned me my own copy of something, there will be my own copy will appear up here. And to work on it, they need to click on it to open it. And then when they're finished with it, they can click the submit button. And they can also click unsubmit if they want to bring it back to themselves. Then in here, you've got private comments. So if I want to talk to my teacher, but I don't want everyone else to see it, I can put it in here and say, look, I couldn't think of anything for the cat. I didn't really know what to do with this. I wasn't sure how to find my login. Any problems, questions, queries, they tend to use private comments, and they can put that in there. And that just goes between the teacher and the pupil. Okay, so that's the pupil view. And if you want to experiment with pupil view and know a bit more about it, and you're a teacher or a learning assistant or a member of staff, what I would suggest is that you work with someone else. You get them to set up a classroom and sign you up as a pupil. It doesn't matter that you're actually an adult. You can sign up as a pupil within a classroom very easily, and then you can play with that. I've set up a demo class on my account, and then I can use that to try things out with other teachers. So I've got a co-worker who's a student in my demo account, and then I'm a student in hers. And it just means that we can try things out between us. And the best thing to do is to play with it, I think, and set it up. So what can you use in Classroom? You can use lots of things. These are the ones that I tend to focus on. Docs, sheets, slides, sites, forms, Jamboard. But you can also add links for websites, searching for YouTube links. You can put things in your classroom straight away so that kids don't have to go and look for things, type things in. They can just click on the link. So those are the main ones that I think you'd find you were using. When it comes back to you, what does it look like? So let's go and have a look at an assignment. So here's the work that the children have been doing for me. And I just want to go and check how it looks. So I'm going to open up my writing task. And if I click on View Assignment, this gives me the teacher view of the assignment. So in here, I can see what's been handed in. Now, I only have one student in my class, but obviously if you have more than one student, you'd have lots of these little boxes. And it shows me that they've handed it in. And I can click on it here to view it. And it tells me that it was handed in late as well. Okay, so when I click on the work, it brings up a review panel. And this is for you to mark it, comment on it. You can make changes here as well. And you can also see their private comments. Okay, so we had a look at the pupil view and we saw how this looked. They had 2 files to send. And as a teacher, I'm just going to review them. And then I can send them a comment, I can send them a mark, and I can return the work. If I felt it wasn't finished, I could return it with a comment saying, actually, you've missed part of the task out. Can you go back and have another look? Or I might want to return all of their files and say, that's great, but you're going to need this for the next task. So have all your work back, and then you can review it later. Okay. So you can see here at the side, the child's private comments popped up. And as a teacher, I can send a comment back. And then they'll see that on their view. So I can have a look at their work. And there's several pages to this document, so I can flip through them here. There we go. Now, this little box here brings up your comment bank. So if there's comments that you use a lot, you can put them in here. So I can add to my bank. I can add multiple comments. So please check your spelling. Might be one I use a lot. Or capital letters and full stops. Or I might have great effort. Okay, so that's given me a little comment bank, and it's going to pop them into here. So I've now got 3 comments that I can add on to my comment bank. Okay, so if I want to add a comment to this piece of work, I just click add comment. And if I want to use a comment, if I start typing, you can see it's picked up my comment that I've made before. I can add that. And then as I go through, I might notice actually they've got some spelling mistakes in this particular page. So I'll just ask them to review that. There we go. Okay, so that's my comments put onto their work. You can see that's there. And then when they come back to it, they can resolve the comment and work on that. Now, if there was something I wanted them to go and have a look at, I might say, actually, you've not understood how to do this particular point here, but I know that there's a really good YouTube link that I've used before. I can post a YouTube link in as a comment, or I could record myself. I use Screencastify a lot, which is an extension in Chrome. And that would allow me to go in and make a comment, and I can post the link in here and they can listen back to it. Okay, so there's lots of options for reviewing work, and then you can return it when you're ready. Let's just go back to the demo class and have a look at the people and marks tabs quickly. You can see that time's getting away from us this morning. So on the people tab, you can add teachers and you can have multiple teachers. I'm the ICT coordinator for my school, so I'm a teacher in all of our Google Classrooms just in case of technical problems. It means it's much easier for me to go and have a look. But I have all my notifications off. I don't spend time in other people's classrooms particularly, but it means I can go and have a look when it's needed. And then in terms of students, you just add on here. Now, it's very easy within Glow because when you start typing someone's name, it picks it up. So if I wanted to add my colleague, Mrs. Andrews, then I can type in her surname and her first initial. There we go. And I know that's her, so I can invite her into my class. And that will just pop it into her classrooms. So you can add a class like that and it will have invite, or you could just give them the class code and then it will give you all of them here. When you click on a student in your class list, it brings up every piece of work they've been given. And this is a really quick way to review what people are doing. If you know that one student's having trouble handing in work, it brings up the list. You can see this student is actually now on top of things, but they've got one piece of missing work and they didn't reply to that question. So I might need to come back to them on that. That's really quick to see. And you can also sort it. If I just wanted to check what they had that's missing, it will filter that. Okay. So that's a really quick way to check on people. The last thing I want to show you on here is the mark book. So the mark book gives you, it's like the back of the register where you have the old-fashioned grade book. So it shows up everything that they've done. If they're missing work, then it will be a quick list here. And it's quite handy in terms of keeping on track with the class. If you realise that a whole class haven't done one particular assignment, it might be a problem. You can go back and have a look. Or you want to go and check the marks that they got for their spelling test last week. You can go and quickly run through them all. And you can scroll. And as you scroll, it will keep the pupils' names at the side. So if I was scrolling across and it went off the edge of my screen, it would keep the pupil names, which makes it very easy to read. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go back to my presentation and see what we need to wrap up with. I don't see any questions in the chat yet, but we'll check in a moment if anyone has anything they want to ask. You can, of course, come back to me later. I realise it's quite a lot of information and we're recording this, so you can review it in your own time. And these slides will be on the classroom and I'll invite you into that today. Okay, so that was viewing pupil work. We had a look at that and we've talked about how to add people to your class. And I've also shown you how to use the mark book. Okay, so Q&A. If there's any questions, pop them into the chat and I can answer them there. Otherwise, thank you for joining me this morning. I hope that answered some of your questions. It's a very quick tour of Google Classroom. What I'd like to do is set up another course that's a bit more in depth for different kinds of assignments in Google Classroom, looking a bit more at how you can use Jamboard as well. And there is a recording of a YouTube broadcast I did last week on Jamboard, which is in the Google Classroom. So you can have a look at that as well. If you have any questions or any feedback that you want to give me, that would be great. And I'll send out the link for the feedback form in a moment. Here we are. Please complete the feedback form and I will just drop that into the chat. But thank you very much for joining me.